Hello there, everyone. My name is David, and this is the Games Monster podcast, part of the Extreme Improv podcast network. On today's show, I'm joined by Ashara. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Good, good. Video games, perfect for self-isolation and all this kind of business where we have to be in lockdown at the moment, aren't they?
Absolutely. Great pastime. Spending a lot of hours pumping into my backlog.
Yes. Oh my gosh, the backlog. I've got a backlog which is out of control. So that there are some games which I know that I'd absolutely love, but I just
Mm.
never buy them anymore because I think that's just going to end up in the backlog.
It's just going to end up in the backlog. It's the I always find it's the big sort of expansive games where I'm like, I can't put in a short time that I'm just going to never play.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so on today's show we'll talk about games that we have been playing recently during COVID. We'll talk about some of our favorite games of all time, just because we decided to dive into this without really prepping exactly what we are going to talk about. So we'll find it, and then maybe we'll find what common ground we've got to talk on, and we can expand, deep dive into some things on a later show, maybe.
Absolutely, sounds great.
Cool. So, we'll start with that. What have you been playing during lockdown?
What have I been playing? So I've actually plugged in my old Xbox 360 recently. Been trying
Yeah.
to play some of those games which I've not had time for. So I've been playing Dragon Age Origins is the one that I've gone back to, an old, I think it's BioWare classic,
Yeah.
from mid 2000s, I think, well, mid 2010s. I mean,
Yeah.
big RPG, semi turn based combat type of thing, magic, fantasy, and lots of role playing opportunities as well. So it's really
See,
fun.
that's a perfect example of a game which I haven't played, just because
Mm.
for me that's a game that's like, oh, it's going to be a massive game, and if a game's going to eat up like 60, 80 hours, recently I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah, it's
And
just the energy put into it, isn't it?
yeah, I'm very tempted by the remake of Final Fantasy VII, just because I
Yeah.
played it back in the day. And from what I understand, they have shortened this. They're going to like release it into chapters, and
Okay.
so I'm half tempted by getting back into that world. But if it was just the prospect of, right, there's another 80-hour version of Final Fantasy VII out there, lockdown may be perfect for it. But normally I'm like, oh, I'd love to play that, but that will end up in the backlog.
It'll end up in the backlog. Yeah, no, I've actually never played any of the sort of traditional JRPGs other than like Pokemon and a bit of Chrono
Really?
Trigger. But
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Okay, so we'll have you been, just before we move off of this idea and segue left, right, and center?
mm.
Have you been playing anything else during lockdown so far?
Yes, I've been playing Breath of the Wild. So
I've
even
got
in
that right
your
behind me.
yeah,
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 in your background, so I got a Switch about a couple months back. I had Mario on that, which Mario Odyssey, if you haven't played it, is phenomenal. It's just probably it's like the tightest platformer I've played ever, I think.
yeah.
Um, I'm not very good at it. Like I've been watching videos of other people do it, and some of the stuff they do is incredible. Um, and there's me just jumping.
No, no,
and
yeah,
then
certainly.
yeah, and then lately I've been playing Breath of the Wild as well because yeah, again, a bit more time to play, sit back. It's interesting actually because I'm enjoying it,
Yeah.
but it's my first Zelda game since Wind Waker from GameCube, so it's been like more than 15 years, and it's really interesting to
Wow.
see how that style of game contrasts with what I played back then, and also like
Okay.
other modern RPGs.
Yeah. So okay. So let's dive into a couple of thoughts there.
Mm,
Um, First of all, just on the front of Zelda and first one since Wind Waker, whilst there'll be some people listening, or if they're watching the video version, watching this will be like, David, that's wrong. There are lots. You haven't actually missed too many in those 15 years. So in terms of the big Zelda games, after Wind Waker, then it was the Wii generation,
yeah.
even though you could still get it on the GameCube with Twilight Princess,
Yes.
and then Skyward Sword on at the end of the Wii. But then the
Yeah.
next one was Breath of the Wild, because it came out both
Mm.
as the last game of the Wii U and the first game of the Switch. So even though there were some 3DS games and things along the way, realistically, you've only missed a couple of entries.
Yeah, no, it was a weird way to when you say put it that way. It's like, oh yeah, it's actually not that many games of innovation between the two.
Yeah,
Um,
and the thing with Twilight Princess is it was an evolution, I suppose, of of the Wind Waker engine, and then not the Breath of the Wild, Skyward Sword took the motion control aspect that they introduced on the Wii version of Twilight Princess and took that further. And then you're up to scratch with Breath of the Wild, which to me is one of the best games I've ever played. That is a game. So even though I'd said it about the backlog, Breath of the Wild is a game where I did put in the 60, 80, 100 hours into it.
Have you completely finished it?
I've completely finished it, but then they released some download content, which by the time I came back to it, it was like, I hate when they put download content where it's like you need to be quite an expert at it, and it's like I've kind of forgotten how to play it in the months in between. And so there was something, so you could, I don't want to give spoilers actually, but you could get this cool bonus thing in it, which I just didn't end up doing because I was by the time you've got the coolest thing, you've done everything, so that you don't really have anything to use the coolest thing with.
Yeah, it was interesting actually talking about like content like that, because I normally don't actually get a lot of DLC, but recently I've had PS Now as like a trial thing.
Oh wow!
And on that they had Horizon Zero Dawn plus the DLC for that.
Yeah,
and I'd completed Horizon Zero Dawn like 100% of it, all of the achievements, all of that. Absolutely loved it. But then played the DLC like a year and a half afterwards, and it was a bit jarring coming back because you can't quite remember like where was I. But it didn't require you to be like, you know, have all of the skills. Like it sort of assumed that, you know, you could play it whilst you were still playing the game and it'd just be an extra section, but it was also like, oh, you can jump in at any point really and be like, oh, okay, and still continue, which worked quite well because I was obviously over leveled compared to like the standard where someone might normally jump in about level 30. I was already max level, all of the skills and everything, so it was interesting seeing that.
So
and like they put in new gameplay loops.
How long would you say it took you to complete Horizon Zero Dawn?
To 100% it, I think it was about 50 hours or so.
Wow. Okay,
but it's quite manageable though, I found. Yeah.
See, there's the interesting thing, because if memory serves, Horizon Zero Dawn came out maybe a week before Breath of the Wild. And it is another example of a game that ended up on my backlog where it's like, I got this, but I was so far into Breath of the Wild that by the time actually, this may be the first time I've thought of it since then. So I might go back and give that one a go.
I think like of them, it's one of like it's of the PS4 generation, it's easily in my top 5, like easily.
Wow. Okay, so the other thing I was going to say, from what you were just saying about that you got to Switch and things, Mario Odyssey is an amazing platformer. And again, maybe it's a Nintendo thing. Did you have a Nintendo 64, or you said you had a GameCube?
No, I had a GameCube and I had a Game Boy Advance, but I haven't had any other ones since then.
So have you never played Super Mario 64?
I've played it on an emulator.
Okay, fair enough.
I've played it on an emulator, but not that long, not that much of it.
Yeah, so on the GameCube, there was Super Mario Sunshine.
Yeah.
And there was a couple in between. So there was Super Mario Galaxy and 3D World. And they're excellent games as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've seen like gameplays of them and they look like really good platformers.
Yeah, and I think it's, so for me, and I've heard other people echo this as well, when it came to that Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey came out within a few months of each other, they were like, these are the best 2 games ever, contenders for the best 2 games ever, which to me goes back to the days of the Nintendo 64 when Super Mario 64 and Zelda Ocarina of Time came out. And they said, oh, these are the best games that have ever been made. And then when like Wind Waker came out and Majora's Mask and a couple of other Zeldas or Marios, they were always like, well, Super Mario Sunshine is good, but it's not really better than Mario 64.
Yeah.
And I think this is the first time that with both of them, they then said, actually, this is the benchmark for the future games.
Agreed,
people won't be looking back to Ocarina of Time. They'll be saying, how does this stack up compared to Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I mean, they're both because obviously going back to Super Mario 64 now is like, it's to be honest, it's jerky. Like it's very different because there's been so many platformers which have done the stuff which they've done.
Yeah.
That it's aged reasonably well compared to some, but it hasn't aged amazingly.
One of the things that
some ways
that always amazes me with the Mario series is, and do you ever play Street Fighter?
Played a little bit, yeah.
See, the interesting thing with Street Fighter, and I'll draw the comparison to Mario here, which I'm not sure where I'm going myself. But if I play Street Fighter, it doesn't matter if it's Street Fighter 2, 3, 4, 5. The first character I'll go in will be like Ryu or Ken.
Yeah.
I'll show you here to show anyone watching the video version. I have a
very nice.
I have a
nice
Ryu.
Hadouken.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, even though there's going to be new controls and new special skills and stuff, I know the basic special moves.
Yeah.
Whichever game comes out, it's
Absolutely.
like I know the buttons to press to do the basic special moves. So I feel that familiarity.
Yeah.
And the same with the 3D Mario games, and even on some of the 2D ones. You start controlling Mario, and there might be an addition or a takeaway, but he still controls with the same. It's still the same character. It's still got the same range of movement.
Exactly. It's like the way that it's the feel, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's because it's like Yeah,
and I was going to say, so there's that instant familiarity where they've just refined it and evolved it, but it's still, when you go back to Mario 64, if you've played Odyssey or Galaxy or 3D World in between, it's like when you go back, you can see how they tweaked things, but you can still feel at home with it.
Absolutely. No, 100% agree. Like I think you nailed it with, like, it's not just his move set, which obviously is like similar between the slams and the jumps and the movement, but it's the way he moves. Like, it feels like the same person, just 30 years later or whatever, 20 years later.
Okay, so have you been to New Donk City on Odyssey?
Yes, I have. Which one? Hold on, which one? I finished the game.
Okay, so New Donk City is the one that's based around the idea of Donkey Kong, with the character Pauline, who's the mayor and stuff like this.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the question, and this we're having this conversation now, Ashara. So we're like 3 years late to this conversation. But is Mario a person? You say he's the same person. Look at the size and shape of Mario compared to all
different to the others, isn't he? Yeah, because they're like traditionally people shaped, aren't they?
Yeah.
Whereas he's still more of he's more in proportion to like the Goombas and all of those other creatures which are there.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point, because is he a person at that point?
No, is he a human? What is
human?
But then there's the character Pauline, who was his original girlfriend before Princess Peach.
And she's normal, well, like a human.
Yeah, she's... Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
It is a weird thing to think about. He could just be a really slightly odd-looking human, to be fair.
He could be. Yeah, it could be. You know,
a somehow like short, portly, but still athletic plumber.
Very athletic. You're right. Okay, so let's just so again, this is helping me work out what games and systems and things we've got in common. Like, let's ask you the question, Ashara. What was the first game system you had? We'll work out what you've had along the way.
Okay, so I played a lot on PC when I was sort of 10, 12-ish, and about that age I got the Game Boy Advance as well. So that was my first sort of like actual like console type thing, handheld, and then after that I had the GameCube.
Yeah.
So those were my first two proper systems. Then when I was about 16-ish, I got Xbox 360, and then about five years ago now, probably, I got the PS4, and then this year, just beginning of this year, I got the Nintendo Switch.
Okay. So in terms of what you're looking forward to the future, so you've never had a PlayStation?
No, I've got PS4 now.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. So I had an Xbox 360, and then the next one was a PS4.
Sorry. I missed that. Right. So do you think you'll be looking towards the PS5, the Xbox One, Series X?
I've been thinking about this one a lot. I mean, it's going to come down to me, like, what games are on the system. And which ones do I really want to play? Like, from the reason I got the PS4 this generation was because the games on it were just so much better, like in terms of exclusives across the board. I felt like there's like one or two games on the Xbox where I'm like, I wouldn't mind playing that, but there was nothing which was like, I have to play that now. So I think if we see like another Last of Us game on PlayStation 5, I'm going to be really tempted. If we see another God of War game, which I'm sure we will, which was like by far my favorite game of this generation. I think those are the two which are like really like screaming out to me in terms of like, I want to play. And I think will be PS5 only.
Yeah, I think also what we'll see though is just as The Last of Us originally came out on the PS3, and then they kind of made it come to life and upped it and made it work smoother and everything on the PS4. I think because The Last of Us Part 2 is still supposed to be a PS4 game,
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
I think it probably the smart money is to wait and just see that within a few months it'll be on the PS5 if they don't suddenly say we're going to make this a launch game.
Sure. Yeah, I mean it's more than possible that we'll see it on the PS5 quite early on. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if we see God of War on the PS5 rather than the PS4.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do another God of War on PS4.
No.
They might take the last God of War game and put it onto the PS5.
Yeah, I can
and
believe
then
that.
get people ready for we're making a new one.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that being a thing. I think it's going to be difficult because I normally like to wait at least a year before I get the system. So Switch,
Yeah.
obviously, I got 2 or 3 years later. I think PS5 and the Xbox, they both got like at least a year, if not 2 years into the cycle already. Because I like to, price come down a bit, better range of games, so I can decide. And normally in that year, you still have so many good games coming out on the old system.
Yeah, I've been a little bit back and forth with that. Like going back, like I've had most systems. I haven't had everything in terms of PS4 Pro or Xbox One X and things like that. But when it's come to like I think the first one I got like day one may have actually been a GameCube. I got a GameCube on like launch day, and I got it with Super Monkey Ball. And then I returned it to the shop though, same day. No, sorry, the next day, and I got Luigi's Mansion just because I felt like I'd made this hideous mistake. Because I'd heard that Luigi's Mansion wasn't that long, which it wasn't.
Yeah.
But I was like, this Monkey Ball, I kept dying on it. I was like, this is all I've got on this machine, so I swapped it. And then later on, I got Monkey Ball again, which is a good game. But for the only game that I'd bought this £130 machine for, I was like, this was the wrong choice here.
Wrong choice. Was Luigi the right choice after you played it?
Yes. However, I completed it within like 3 days or something.
Okay.
But I felt like, well, I'm going to play it again, and then soon enough, I was looking for something else to play.
Yes, absolutely.
And the GameCube actually was an interesting one, just because I feel like people look back on it and say how good it was, but I felt like they made so many mistakes in terms of they didn't give people what they wanted, specifically. Even though later on people can look back and say, no, they were really good. Everything was kind of not what they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, like, because you look at like something like Wind Waker now, and you're like, people are now like, phenomenal game. It's still like art style wise, it still massively holds up. Like, I've played it, like I was playing it last year, and I was like, this is what a 2004 game or something, and it still looks good. But yeah, I think because at the time they were announcing that it was going to be like a much more realistic, more like maybe not gritty, but like a more real version of Zelda.
Well,
and everyone was like, "Oh, well, this is."
Yeah, they had shown a demo where it looked like basically like Lord of the Rings, and people were like, "Oh, this is going to be amazing." And then when they showed it and it looked like Disney, people were like, "Nintendo's just for children. This is embarrassing." And then as soon as people played it, they were like, "This is really good."
Yeah, exactly.
But unfortunately, they'd got that bad press, whereas they could have just had the easy win. Because then what they did with Twilight Princess is they gave people
what they
hoped for in the first place. And it's so true. When you look back at not Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, it doesn't hold up nowadays.
No, it doesn't, does it? Yeah.
And when they on the Wii U, they did remasters in HD of Wind Waker, which the interesting thing with it is they put some sort of like degree of shadow on the characters just to add to the cell shading look. And in one sense, that kind of ages it more, but it does look a very polished and smooth game on the Wii U.
Like it's stunning how it looks compared to games that are come out later. Yeah,
absolutely. But then when you see Twilight Princess HD, it still looks bad. it doesn't hold up at all.
No, I think you're right. It's interesting as well, though, because I think there's definitely quite a lot of nostalgia as well for those games from that era. And also the ones that we remember are the really good games from that era. We forget all of the absolute rubbish from like there. I mean,
But
we only remember like the Smash Brothers, the Zeldas, the
yeah, certainly. Oh yeah, absolutely.
time splitters and stuff like that.
There was the element though where people wanted Super Mario 64 too, which never came out on the Nintendo 64.
No, it didn't, did it?
And so
Yeah.
when they then announced, and here's Luigi, and people were like, we don't want Luigi.
Yeah.
And Nintendo actually, 'cause like I said, I didn't buy Luigi day one just because they'd said it's a short game.
Yeah.
And I think it was an interview with Shigeru Miyamoto, who created Mario and Zelda. He said, like, so many of the games we make, people don't play them all the way to the end, so we're just going to make a shorter game. And people, again, it upset people. They were like, but we like, the ones of us who like the long games, you're now not going to give it to us.
Not giving it to us, yeah.
And then, because, did you ever like the Rareware games back in the day?
So, as in, like, is that Banjo Kazooie and those ones?
Yeah, that kind of
stuff. I've played a little bit of those, but not a huge amount.
Actually, if you didn't have a Nintendo 64,
yeah, I've played a game on it.
But that was the company that then jumped ship to Xbox.
Xbox, isn't it?
And so literally, there was thing after thing after thing. They did the Star Fox game, which was like a Zelda game instead of a flying game, and it was just over and over again that they did things. Yeah, I think it's called Star Fox Adventures on the GameCube.
Yeah.
And you have about probably 25 minutes where you're flying an R-Wing. I actually have an R-Wing here. So I have lots of props to hand, so here's my R-Wing.
Oh, very nice.
But
I've only got Pokemon, I'm afraid.
Sorry?
I've only got Pokemon here.
Oh, what Pokemon have you got?
I've got... Hold on, I can...
Yeah,
I'm going to have to move to go there. Hold on.
Okay, just as you do this. So you only had about 20 minutes of flying, and the rest of it you were running around basically like a Zelda game. What have we got?
We've got a Charizard.
Oh, that's a very big Charizard.
And there's like Mewtwo and quite a few other ones.
That's very cool.
Pikachu as well.
Yeah, I've got a Pikachu that I got from...
There's a few others like Blastoise and stuff.
Got me... we were in Japan a couple of years ago on my birthday, and we went to Pokemon Mega Tokyo, Pokemon Store Mega Tokyo.
Oh, I've heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's like a Disney store, but Pokemon. And so we were there on my birthday, and my girlfriend got me this Pikachu.
Oh, lovely.
So that's very cool, and I just like that everything on it is written in Japanese.
In Japanese, yeah.
Which it just feels more authentic that way.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, like I use. So I got those when I went to the Pokemon store in Westfield.
Yeah,
it's good fun, but yeah, it's interesting all the different stuff they have there. But so where were we? R-Wing, wasn't it?
Yeah, R-Wing. So they did a Zelda game out of a Star Fox game, so they didn't give people the Star Fox game they'd want. And I'm trying to think, there was more examples, but it was just like over and over again. It was sort of like they didn't quite give people what they want. So, whereas they'd been on such a run, well, I say that the N64 hadn't done well compared to the PS1, but everything they had got right, they kind of tried to fix what wasn't broken.
To fix it, yeah.
Yeah, and so they made some mistakes there. So
it's interesting coming from there then to go to the Wii and then the Wii U again, like after that, like completely different direction with some of those games, and especially with all the motion controls and everything else. But
yeah, it's just interesting because like when Nintendo went to the Wii, they did some completely random stuff. They focused on the motion controls, but they did. People often forget with the idea of like all the motion controls that they did put out Twilight Princess.
Yeah,
they put out Super Mario Galaxy, and they did Smash Brothers games liked, and Mario Kart, and they did a lot right.
Yeah, they did.
But then it was just because there were so many waggle-based games, which I never minded. Do you ever play Resident Evil?
I've played. I've got I think 5 or 6 on the Xbox. And I've seen a lot of 4. Like one of my friends had it. So
the best one.
Yeah.
But 6. If the only one you've played is 6, that is barely even a Resident Evil.
Yeah, I mean, like I've played a bit of it, and I was like, I don't like this at all.
4 is great.
Yes.
So during lockdown, the thing I've just been playing has been the just re-released.
The re-release is it 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a year ago, Resident Evil 2 remake came out. Did you play that?
No, I've heard it's incredible though.
It is incredible.
Yeah, like I have to admit I'm a bit of a wimp when it comes to like horror type games.
Yeah.
So I've put them off for a long time. Like Last of Us has been pretty much as scary as I've gone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I won't say you have to play something because it is scary. And
Yeah.
when I played the remake of Resident Evil 3, the thing that
Mm.
struck me was it's scary. The other thing which a lot of people have criticised it for was that it's really short.
Mm.
But for me, I've played it through like 3 times, like straight off, and so then you
Okay.
feel that you can get quite good at a game.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind that it was quite short, whereas the remake of 2 may have been about 15 hours, and the second time I was
And then
just
there's like a couple like different characters you can play as well, isn't
yeah.
it? Yeah.
But the second time I was just like, I paid for the DLC there just to get
Yeah.
weapons. I was like, I don't want to have to. It was too tense, too scary. I was like, I just want to have my infinite ammo and take it on. So, but yeah, so
It's interesting about the length of games you mentioned there, because
yeah,
I think too often there's so many games out there which they put out being like, it's like 50 hours of gameplay, or it's like 30 hours of gameplay, or it's like, or like The Witcher, where it's like like 100 or 300 or however many hours you can
yeah,
put into it. um but it's just like, unless you're a kid or you're someone who can, or like in these situations where we have more time, it's so hard to consistently put time into these games and actually get anywhere close to finishing them. Like, the only way I got through Horizon Zero Dawn and God of War, both with about 50 to 80 hours probably by now,
yeah,
it's just because the gameplay loop in it was so satisfying. But like, there are games like The Witcher, for example, which I know people love, but I just can't get through. I can't sit there and play for hours and hours. And
yeah,
I'd almost want something which is tight and short.
yeah. And it's interesting because people like some games. I think they're fine to be short. You know,
Agree.
if you're going to get a very long game and it's like if you're spending 30-40 pounds and you think, well, I'm not actually going to get through this,
Yeah,
how is it any more value than one that's 5-10 hours long, where it's like I'll
absolutely.
play that and then I'll enjoy it and then I'll probably come back to it and play it again.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think, again, going back to the Mario Odyssey example, that's only like, I mean, it's not a short game. It's like 15 to 20 hours or whatever,
Yeah,
but it was long enough.
yeah,
And like,
absolutely.
there's more I can do in that world if I want to, but I was happy with where I left it.
Yeah. I didn't 100% it by
Yeah.
quite a long way, but I got through to the end of the story and
Yeah.
then I'm trying to even remember now because I muddle up Mario games, but you may have been able to get more areas to get more
Yeah.
moons.
More
Or,
moons and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And I think, like, what else I'm just looking at my titles from here to see what did I think was too. So like, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a great example, I think, of a game that is too long,
yeah.
in my opinion. Because have you played it? This one, I don't know.
I've not played Red Dead Redemption.
So I played the first one, and again, one of my favorite games of the 360 era. Like, it was
Yeah,
so good, like straight 10 for me. Like, such a good game. Like, the characters were amazing and all of that, and I never felt like it was a chore playing it. Whereas with Red Dead Redemption 2, everything about it feels like a chore, and the missions are all like the same style of missions, and they go on for just so long. Um, and like, I've had it for 2 years, and or like, I've had it basically since launch, and still haven't finished it. Like, I'm hoping to finish it now, but like, I know I'm almost there, but it's been like 50 hours, and I'm like, I'm not really enjoying it enough to be putting the time into it.
yeah, absolutely. I think I think where games feel like it's a chore or
Mm,
things that it's like you have to grind to build up characters and stuff.
mm,
Sometimes you can cut that out because and like the Final Fantasy games are an
yeah,
example that when they re-released Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9. Now I haven't even done this just because the idea of playing them through again, just knowing how long they took the first time was still too daunting. But I think
yeah,
they've made it so you can just kind of fast track the grinding so that you can
yeah,
go through the story. And I think that's something that that modern games can actually learn from. So
yeah,
I think the mentality a lot is that right, we need to keep players keep coming back, just playing this game, and then they'll
yeah.
buy the download content, and so that you really feel invested in one game.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the old, like, it's almost like an arcade mentality where it's like they used to make the game super hard, so you'd put more coins into play. It's almost like, we're going to make the game really long so that you keep going and you're like, oh yeah, I want more at the end of it. But I'd rather have that shorter episodic type feel where it's like, okay, I finished this chunk. Now there's another chunk. Now there's another chunk, or like, there's something which is like demonstrably different between the two.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay, so the other thing I'm trying to think if there was some segue we did there. Oh yeah, so just very quickly, just so I have finished this
Hmm.
thought from like 8 minutes ago. Um, it's so easy to get sidetracked
It
though.
is, yeah.
Is that I said that? So I bought a GameCube new. Um,
Yes.
just because of like circumstances, life at the time, and everything. I don't think I think I had to wait about a month to get a Wii, which
Okay.
was actually quite good compared to most people who had to
Mm.
wait up to a year.
Yeah, I remember it was so long.
So hard to get one.
Yeah.
So I got in there very early, and I think I was like eighth on the pre-order list at an HMV.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've got it." And then it's like, "Oh, you can't have one yet." And I had to wait 2 weeks, and I was eighth in because there was just so few out there.
It's insane.
But after that, I waited a long time to get a Wii U, just because I think compared to the GameCube, there was so much wrong that they did there.
Mm.
Like everything, the idea that you look at one screen and then look at a big screen, I was like, it doesn't work. You
No.
can't look at both at the same time. If you've got a 3DS or a Nintendo DS and
Yeah.
both screens are there, it's the same as if you're looking at a Switch.
Yeah.
But if you're looking here and looking there, you literally, from
It's,
biology, you can't do both at
you
once.
can't do both at the same time. Yeah. It was a
Yeah.
weird system. Like, it again had some ideas which were fun. Like, that was a fun idea, but it was just one which they didn't think about enough, it feels.
Yeah, it's yeah. There's just so many until they did Super Mario Maker, and you
Mm.
get Mario Maker 2, which I
Right.
haven't,
Yeah.
on the Switch. I didn't feel there was a good use for the tablet. But
Yeah.
anyway, I digress. The point of this was, I got a Switch day one, and the interesting thing with the story there,
Okay.
I ended up with two of them day one, which was because you could get like the grey machine, and because mine's just here, I've got the red and blue controllers. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm playing Picross at the moment, which is a good game. But
Okay.
I got the one with the red and blue controllers.
Okay.
But when I pre-ordered it, because I was like, oh, I want to get one, I ordered the grey one, and then it was only like a few minutes later I realised I could get the red and blue ones.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to now cancel the grey one in case something happens like happened with the Wii.
Yeah, of course.
And so on the day, I ended up with two. And I wasn't meaning to be one of these people that then sells it, but
yeah.
I whacked it onto eBay and actually made a profit on it.
Oh, wow. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I wouldn't normally do that, but just because I ended up with two, I was able
I mean,
to
like I think that's a perfectly fine thing. Like, it's not like you were intending to go and buy it.
No, exactly. I wasn't trying to like be one of these people that buys it and then just ups the price. But I had it. I wasn't going to return it because I was like, well, I may as well do it like this because
Yeah.
And so I was able to actually afford another game. So quite.
Oh, good. Yeah.
What did I? Oh, so a month later, Mario Kart came out, and so that's what I used the extra money for.
So, what did you start? What were your games that you started with?
On the Switch, day one was Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And I think also on day one, because there was very little available on Switch at launch. I think I got Shovel Knight because I played it on the PS, and it was a great game.
Yeah.
And I just wanted something else to be able to play, like a palate cleanser between.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's such a heavy game, Breath of the Wild. Well, not heavy game, but it's because it's that style of, you can do anything. You sometimes need something like Shovel Knight, which is just like, oh, just go here and play for a bit.
Yeah, exactly. And then it was good at the start of the week because a month later Mario Kart came out. A month after that, Splatoon 2 came out, and they kept doing that for a while. And then eventually Mario Odyssey came out, and yeah, there's some great games. I think the Switch, once it's all said and done, is going to have, because they put so many of the PS3 360 games remastered on there. It's just got this incredible library.
I see. It's interesting. Which of the ones have you gone for the sort of remastered ones? I've seen there's Skyrim, there's Witcher 3.
Okay, I'm going to need to switch this on just to tell you.
Yeah,
I can do. Okay, so on my library, and some of these I do have Skyrim, but I don't have the Witcher just because I got Skyrim because I was like, well, after Zelda, that's like what I should be playing. But
yeah,
I've only played a few hours into it.
absolutely.
Things I've got on this of like remasters. So because I'm the Resident Evil fanatic on my Switch, I currently have Resident Evil, Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil Revelations, and Resident Evil Revelations 2. On top of that, I've got Onimusha, which is another.
It's like an old PS game, right?
Yeah, PS2 game.
Yeah.
Then I've got Doom 2, Doom 3, and Doom 64.
Okay.
And then the Doom 2016 or whatever year it came out.
Yeah.
I got the Crash Bandicoot trilogy.
I've been thinking about getting the Crash and the Spyro. Is it Spyro?
But yeah,
Spyro on
got
Switch or something?
Spyro.
Yeah.
So, and this is one of the things because often like I'm in my. How old are you, Ashara?
28.
28. So I'm in my early 30s.
Mm.
And so I have some of this nostalgia for N64
Yeah, of course.
and PlayStation. So when some of these things come out, it's like I'm going to get Crash Bandicoot and I'll get
Exactly, yeah.
Spyro the Dragon. So even though there might be other games that I haven't played at all, just that when they've remastered some of these classics, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna relive that because of the nostalgia of it.
And I think the thing is as well is that obviously in one sense of the term they are like a cash grab in terms of, they're trying to get, they're trying to bank on that nostalgia. But the thing is, you can tell from the reviews and the way it looks and the way it plays is that they're not just a quick port, right? Like they could do the
Yeah.
easy job and just port it and not do any work to it and like charge maybe like a fiver or something. But instead they've put in a bit more work. They've made, updated all the assets, made it actually look good and feel good, and like put in the things which can make games of that era sometimes hard to play. So like
Yeah.
I think it was like is Spyro the one as well that didn't have like an old like a proper camera, like it didn't have as good camera controls back in the day, whereas now it has better ones. I
Yeah.
could be wrong on that, but
Just because on the PS1, it's when they introduced like dual
sticks, wasn't it? Yeah.
and so the first one certainly may not have had it so that you can rotate the camera. It may have just been like on Mario 64 where it jerks like in degrees at a time.
Exactly.
But yeah, so the Switch is really good for that kind of thing. Okay, so just coming on to like the next thought, what would you say if you had to pin down a few contenders for your favorite game of all time? What would they
Favorite game of all time? Okay, so so the one in my background is definitely up there. So that's Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic from 2003.
Yeah.
There's definitely like an element of nostalgia there because it was the first proper game, like proper RPG that I'd ever played. Like I played a fair amount of games then, but I was like, I think it was I'd just gone to secondary school, so I was about 11 when it came out. And I remember like reading in magazines about it for months beforehand and getting more and more excited. And then it was in the days like we had internet and stuff. Obviously, it was not quite the same. So like I didn't know when it was coming out, and so I used to keep going to like WH Smith and I think it was
looking at the
game exactly, and be like, oh, has it come yet? It's like no.
Okay,
and then
Ashara,
one day,
would you be one of those people who'd go into WH Smith's and you'd pick up the magazine and you'd just be stood there for like 3 minutes finding out if the magazine's worth it?
Absolutely not. I mean,
No,
I
me
feel
neither.
besmirched. No, of course. I think everyone had a little cheeky flick through the magazine to see, oh, is there anything in here that actually interests me?
Yeah, absolutely. And see, I would buy back in the day. So I've called this podcast the Games Monster podcast, and I came up with the idea based on the old magazine, The Games Master. And I was like,
yeah, of
Games
course.
Master, Games Monster. I was like, that
it's
works.
close,
Monster
yeah.
cool word. But yeah, so I'd usually get Games Master, and then I might get like official PlayStation magazine if it had a demo disc. But then some of the others, it'd be like, well, I'll have a look to see if there's something cool this month.
Exactly, yeah. I can't even remember which one is the one that I used to get, but I just remember it was this one and Jedi Out. Is it Jedi Outcast? It was like the Dark Forces game with like Kyle Katarn and like that was like a third/first person game. It's recently come out on the Switch as well, actually.
Okay.
Doesn't hold up as well, but it's still quite good. It's still quite good. So that's that one. It's a Knights of the Old Republic BioWare game, really deep RPG, loads of amazing characters, including I think HK-47 is somewhere here. Where is he? This guy here.
Yeah.
He's one of the best characters in like he's like an assassin droid and he's hilarious.
So are you a big Star Wars fan outside of the game?
I am, but I think it was purely because of this game. So like I've seen all the films, I've read books and stuff like that, but I think it's pretty much stems from playing this game and a couple others of that era. Okay, so that one, then bringing things much more recent, The Last of Us.
Yeah, great game.
Great, amazing game. I think like emotionally, it just hit so many beats throughout the game. And when I finished it, no spoilers, obviously. When I finished it, I remember being like, "Okay, I'm gonna turn my PlayStation off for a bit," and didn't go back and play anything for a couple of days because I was like, "Yeah, need a break."
Yeah.
God of War from this God of War, which again, phenomenal game.
Viking
Just
version.
Viking version. I mean, have you played it? I can't remember if
No,
you said you
I've
have.
not. I've not got around to it yet. Just 'cause,
Yeah,
again, I feel like it's one of these ones that's too big for me to get into.
I can see where you come from that. Like it's a big game, but you can dip out in some ways. What else is up there? Just looking at things. Okay, a bit of a. This is less of a. This is what. This one, I'm not sure if it's my all-time favorites, but it's one of the ones that holds a special heart, which is Fallout New Vegas.
Okay, I never.
Um,
I got when I bought my not PS, my Xbox 360. It came with a Fallout game. It might have been Fallout
it
3 or
probably would
something.
have been 3.
Yeah, and I played it for maybe 3 hours or something. And
Yeah,
again, I was just like, well, I see this is good, but then I got onto other stuff.
yeah. I've played. I think I've played bits of every single Fallout game. Well, all the numbered titles
Yeah,
plus New Vegas. New Vegas is the only one which I would say that I like, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Like the others are like they're good games. Like they're obviously good games, but they're just not for me. It was like the
yeah.
character of the Mojave Desert and like Las Vegas and all that was such a big. It was amazing setting that it was just like like I love it. And then my last two that I'm going to put in there,
Yeah,
Mass
go for it.
Effect 2.
Yeah, never played a Mass Effect game.
So I think my understanding is the first one doesn't hold up in terms of gameplay, but storyline, world building has everything I love about it. It's like such a rich world, and like it feeds it to you in such a nice way. And Mass Effect 2 is basically that, but with really good modern gameplay.
Yeah.
And then lastly is I'm going to go with Skate 2, which is obviously completely different to everything
Skate
else.
2. Wow.
Skate 2, yeah.
That literally just like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, but for a modern generation.
Yeah, so it was I think it was on Xbox 360s where I bought it. And it's only been in that generation. But they had Skate 1, 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And it was the Skate 3 came out almost I think 10 years ago this year or next year.
Yeah.
And like there's still huge communities like of videos and stuff like I was watching a video just the other day which had like 2 million views from Skate
Wow.
3, like it, because there literally hasn't been a good skate game for more than 10 years. And yeah, it's great. Like Skate 2 is my favorite of them, but all of them are really good.
And what's the appeal of it? How does the game quite work? Is it just
So
like you're doing
it's
tricks and tournaments and
exactly, yeah. So it's like a fully open world. So different to say like Pro Skater and stuff where you have like arenas where you go in. But there are events where you can compete against the computer nowadays. You used to have online, but that's I think unfortunately all been shut off now. And it also had like a really fun like couch co-op mode where you could do tricks against your friends, or the best thing, which was they have a thing called the Hall of Meat, which is basically like the ragdoll physics in the game are ridiculous.
right?
And you basically compete to have like the most like horrifying crash essentially, and it's not gruesome or anything, but you can see like they do like little like the cheesy x-rays of things like getting like broken and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like the noises and like it's all ridiculous, but it's just a really fun game. And I've just put so many hours into it, and like I think the fact that there hasn't been a good one for so long and people are still playing it shows how like what the longevity of it was like. Like there's a couple other skate games coming out, like they're both in sort of early access alpha at the minute, Skater XL and Sessions. And they're the closest thing which has happened to like a real proper skate game for 10 years. So I think a lot of people are excited for that. And it got me into watching skateboarding in the X Games and stuff as well.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
well, this is an interesting theme that I'm noticing. So you found Star Wars because of the game.
Yeah.
Found skating in the X Games because of playing the game.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. That's like
Mm.
often it'll be that like I'm a fan of professional wrestling,
Yeah.
and I'll then think, oh, I've got to play the new
Play the new
WWE game.
games. Yeah.
But it can go where people are like, oh, what's this game? And then they might discover like Star Wars.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to think if there's anything like that with that for me. It's quite. Now, I've never been a huge fan of the James Bond game. Sorry, the James
Okay.
Bond films.
Yeah.
But I definitely played GoldenEye back in the day, and most of my early knowledge of James Bond just came from the video game.
Yeah.
And then there may be a couple of others like this. Because I can go back in time to like the Commodore Amiga, which was a computer
Yeah.
in basically just in the UK. You may have had it in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've heard about the Commodore.
And there was like when my family got one, we had like loads and loads of the games and the discs and things come out. And because there was games of so many movies, it was like a lot of the movies I hadn't seen, but I'd played the games.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I barely remember the game, but it was probably like the first thing I came into contact with RoboCop was as a game. And I definitely would have seen old Batman, but I definitely put a lot more time into like Batman the movie, the game,
Yeah.
on the Commodore Amiga than what I'd seen like Batman the movie.
How were those like movie tie-in games back then? Were they still very much the sort of like cash in that they are nowadays, or because I mean there are some which aren't like, but
all of them were kind of like okay. None of them were brilliant. Mostly, especially back then, there'd be like side-scrolling platform beat 'em up style games.
Yeah.
So if you were like playing Ninja Turtles or if it was Batman, you'd walk along, you'd beat up some bad guys, they'd disappear, blink out of existence. You'd walk along, you'd have to jump, and something like this, and then you might get one other little section. But I'm trying to think. In the mid-90s, there were, and they've recently re-released these games. They had the Disney's Aladdin and Disney's The Lion King games.
Yeah.
They were brilliant back in the day.
Yeah. Those are good. I've got which ones have I got? I've got the Tarzan game.
Yeah, that was
which was quite good.
I'm trying to think when that.
Yeah, I mean, I had it on PC, but that was a
game.
good game. And then I had one of the like 3D Aladdin games.
Oh, a 3D Aladdin.
A 3D Aladdin one. So it was a little bit later than the Lion King and
okay,
the
but like
original.
I think the really interesting thing, and I think this made a big difference for like the industry, is when it came to these two. They were 2D, but they were like 2D platformers, and it was the first time they actually got like the animators from Disney to do the animation, and so it just looks like the Disney.
Well, they look like I was watching I've been recently getting into a lot of speed runs and stuff, and I watched a speed run of like the Lion King game, and it's just really interesting watching how they do the stuff. But like it looks good, like for a game that's 25 years old.
Yeah, out of interest, how long does a speed run of the Lion King take someone?
Oh, I think it was in the range of like 20 to 30 minutes.
Wow.
Like it's really fast.
Yeah, back in the day, it like you couldn't save, especially if I had this on the Amiga. So you'd put in a floppy disk and you'd wait for it to load, and you'd start at level 1 and you'd go through and then you'd get so far and then you'd die and you'd be like, I can't believe this, because you're just a child. And you'd switch it off and you'd well, actually if I'd slam it about, I'd never do that, but I can't believe this, and you'd come back to it like 3 days later or 2 days later, back to level 1 and stuff like this. And it took hours, like an hour and a half, 2 hours of like carefully trying to do these jumps, not trying to collect all of the lives you could in the early levels, so that then later on you've got lots of extra lives. But the amount of times you'd like, oh, I didn't get that extra life, or I died early, so I've got to quit this. And even then you couldn't just like press like start and quit. You'd have to switch off the machine and reload it from scratch. But
I mean, like, it was interesting because even the speedrunners were saying like they were saying the stuff this person is doing is really hard, because this game is hard. Like, it's not just like they're making it look easy, but like, they weren't easy games.
Do you do speed runs of anything yourself?
I myself don't do them, but I watch a lot of them, and I've watched a lot of like the history for some of these. I think for me, I need a game which I like enough that I would want to speedrun it, but not like enough that I'm going to ruin it for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
because like I feel like I'd get really sick of it because I don't want to play like Knights of the Republic because for one, those are like 3 hour speed runs, which is insane. But
Wow.
like, yeah, like I watch one, it's just like wow, like all of the tricks and stuff they do to get to the end. But I know if I'll just get sick of it and never want to play it again.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
interesting. We're talking about Breath of the Wild, and
Mm,
that's a game that had the aspect to it that if you played it this way, you could actually go straight to the final boss
yeah,
almost immediately.
yeah. I mean, like the
Or
speed run for that's like 20 minutes long.
wow, that's incredible.
Yeah,
I attempted it, mate. I think you have to get off like the Great Plateau or something like this. I'm trying to remember the name of it, and then you can go straight to Ganon's castle.
that's right. Yeah,
And I attempted it, and it took me about 2 hours of like climbing up the side of the castle, dodging everything because if I was going to fight anything, it was not like you can
yeah.
save, but
You'd
it's
just
like
die, wouldn't you? Yeah,
over and over. And I did get to face with Ganon, but he just destroyed me so much that I had to go
yeah,
back to like a previous save version or something.
yeah. It's interesting seeing that because it is possible, and like all of the speed runs do it with like this amount of like with the basic health and the basic stamina. Um, and it's just they've practiced so much at all of the different things. They got all of the skills like perfect, and then they obviously know how to do the glitches to like help them.
Yeah. See, the glitches, they're always something which is it fair play to do a glitch, or is it some way cheating or breaking, not playing by the rules?
So in my opinion, it's absolutely fair game because there's like different types of speedruns. There's speedruns there's a glitchless speedruns where you don't use glitches,
Yeah,
and then there's the types which are like any percent where you can do anything and you just have to get to the end of the game. Um, and I think both are really interesting. Um, but for most people, I think it's very hard to watch it like a speed run with lots of glitches because you're like, one, I don't know what's happening, and two, it's like they're not actually playing the game often.
exactly. Yeah.
Um,
I think I've seen a speed run of Zelda on the Super Nintendo
mm,
where someone finds something within the first 3 or 4 minutes where they go through a wall and then they end up in the room with
yeah,
the final boss and then the credits roll and it's like I've completed it. It's like, well, have you?
yeah,
Does that count? You found like something where like the coding had broken down and it's not that you've worked out this enemy's weak spot or something. You
yeah.
literally just skip to the end credits.
I told a lie earlier when you asked have I done any speed runs. There's one speed run which I've done,
Okay, what's that?
and it's so like anyone with a Game Boy or a Game Boy emulator can do the original Pokemon Red and Blue.
Okay.
And you can do an 80% run of it where you finish the game with 0 game time.
Wow.
I can't remember what the glitch is, but basically you can glitch it almost immediately in like Pallet Town, and you get sent straight to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, because I
Okay,
mean,
so
like,
you mentioned about Pokemon earlier. You
yeah,
big into Pokemon?
reasonably. I like. So I've obviously got a bunch of toys and stuff, and I played. My first one was Pokemon Crystal, and I've played a bunch of the original like Game Boy Color ones and stuff. I haven't yet played Sword and Shield,
No, me neither.
and I haven't played any of the. I've played Diamond and Pearl as well from the
Yeah.
DS era, but I haven't played any between Diamond and Pearl. So I've a long thing where I'm now like, if I see a Pokemon on something, I'm like, I have no idea what that is. That's not Pikachu. That's not Charmander. I don't
Yeah,
recognize it.
yeah.
Weird. There's just so
Oh, have
many.
you never
Like,
played Pokemon Go?
I've played a bit of Pokemon Go, but only when it first started. So like then it was only like the ones I knew.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I've dipped in and out more and
Mm.
less at times of Pokemon Go, and I've got my girlfriend playing Pokemon Go with me, and
Yeah.
I'll be like, "We need to do a battle," and she won't want to do a battle, and stuff like
Have you
that.
completed
Have I completed what? Sorry, it was
the
just
Pokedex for it?
no, nowhere near. Like I
Nowhere
say
near.
that, if I bring it up, I could see how far it's because they keep adding more things to it.
Yeah, of
I think
course.
I've got basically almost all of like the original 150 and 250
Okay, yeah.
added to it. But yeah, I justify that as its form of exercise because you go out
Yeah,
on
it
it
is.
at the moment. But
I mean, at the minute, I mean, you can still use it for when you're going for a walk.
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, okay. So the original Pokemon Red, Blue, and then Yellow version.
Yellow, yeah,
I played those to death back in the day,
yeah,
and because I had it on the original Game Boy,
yeah.
I had like a. So I say about like.
Oh, so not even the color one.
No, no. I had a color as well later.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I had it on the original like black and white version. Um, but I say about like using glitches and things. I just full out cheated with Pokemon, in that there was the character Mew that you couldn't get unless you physically went to a place within it. So I used like a card Game Shark or something.
A Game
like
Shark.
Action Replay. It's called. And so you could glitch Mew into the game, but then it would wreck the save. It would absolutely destroy the save. So I glitched Mew into the game, and then because I had a Nintendo 64, I had the game Pokemon Stadium and a transfer pack, so you could plug a Game Boy game into the controller. And using that, they had some, like how there's a thing nowadays called Pokemon Box, and there is like a new version on the Switch. I can't remember what it's called. But you could like store your Pokemon on the Nintendo 64 game. And so I transferred Mew onto there. But then I had to start the original Game Boy game from scratch.
Oh.
Save.
Yeah.
But then I was able to do it with a Mew. And so the question I was going to ask you, so you can remember back, just whilst I try and remember as well. It's like, who was your party of 6 Pokemon?
Okay, so this was So the one that I played the most, and the one that has like the dearest part of my heart, is Pokemon Crystal, second generation. So it was my Feraligatr.
Yeah.
Which was obviously the starter back then. Evolved. It's going to be a bit of a weird one. It was a Hoot Hoot, but like an owl Pokemon. It's not very good. It's just I had it from level 3. Yeah, flying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I had it from like level 3 up to like level 80 or whatever it was. Then I think I had Lugia.
Yeah.
Yep, I had Lugia. What was the other 3 that I would have used a lot? I used one of the psychic ones. I think it was Kadabra. I used a lot. I used to love Kadabra.
I like psychic Pokemon.
I mean,
oh, just getting a little bit of a glitch here, Ashara. I don't know if you can still hear me. Okay,
I can still hear you. Yeah.
Go for it. Just repeat that last thing.
I said the original, and the original generation one, they were so powerful compared to everything else. My last 2. I mean, it probably would, maybe rather than the Kadabra, it probably would have been a Mewtwo at some point. Yeah. And then I think I had a Kangaskhan and a what was it? Machoke? Yeah, I think it was a Machoke. Yeah.
Or a Machamp?
No, well, so this is the thing. I didn't sadly have anyone to trade with. So
I know that pain. I didn't have anyone to trade with, but eventually, when I got a Game Boy Color, I think I got like the cable so I could connect my original Game Boy to my Game Boy Color, and so I ended up with like red and blue, and I was evolving these things like crazy. But the first time I didn't get Pokemon Crystal, at least not at first, and I definitely haven't played it if I eventually did get it.
Okay.
I played Gold, but I didn't realize this. I got a secondhand copy of Gold, and it was a pirated copy. And all of the characters in this second generation, I know the second generation well, but on this pirated copy, and I only discovered it was pirated, and I would have been maybe 12 or something at the time.
Yeah.
They'd all got like either half of the names or different names.
Oh, really?
And there was the point where I was like, it's like none of these characters. I was like, is this a French copy or something like this? It was in English, but all of it was kind of wrong. And at the time, I was just like, I don't think this is the proper English copy. There was I just met a character who, like, when they were doing the fight talk just before a battle, they were like, well, F you. And I was like, what? And I was like, Mom, you've got to look at this. And we took a photograph on an old camera that had like a roll of film, just so that we could prove this. And it was a pirated copy, and it wouldn't let me trade any of the monsters from
I see.
So eventually I then did get silver, or I may have got crystal, I can't remember, but I used that for trading. But the team that I've got most in my memory is I would have this Mew, and obviously I could only add it later, but I had this Mew, Mewtwo, Lapras, What is it? Blastoise, almost forgot what
Blastoise,
the
yeah.
Squirtle, becomes. And what else? Maybe a Victory Bell. And there was one more, and I can't remember what it was now. Oh, and a Dug Trio. So I had a Diglett, and so this was the thing. And I liked having Mew and Mewtwo, these strong psychic types.
Yeah.
And so on later games where like you couldn't just get them, I was like, oh, I can't get my Mewtwo. So I end up going down the Abra, Kadabra, and Alakazam route. But to me, they were never as good. It was always like, well, they're not as good as. And the thing is, they couldn't like heal themselves, whereas like
Mewtwo Mew
yeah,
definitely could. Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned Abra and that. I've recently been watching like a series which is basically trying to complete the game without evolving Pokemon, and one of the ones he did was Abra.
Wow.
Which only has teleport for 20 odd. So basically, he got it so it lost all of its moves PP, and then it just uses struggle.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So to beat Brock alone took, which is insane. But
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I wonder, can you do the same with Magikarp?
Yes, you can.
Flash, isn't it?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. But that's an interesting, because I reckon he'll probably come onto that at some point. Because I don't think you can teach Magikarp anything. Because the advantage with Abra is once you get past a certain part of the game, you could then pick up like TMs which are more powerful. Like I think he had like Mega Punch and eventually Psychic to do it. Whereas Magikarp can't learn anything until it becomes Gyarados. So
wow.
I think I don't think you could get past the Ghost Pokemon.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you play? Oh, so if you've just recently got a Switch, they remade Red and Blue as Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I've got the demo of it, and I tried a little bit of it, and I didn't really like it that much.
Yeah.
I've only bought the 2 games so far for the Switch. I'm like currently, my thoughts are I've got so much to play in Legend of Zelda that I'm gonna play that a lot before I think about buying a new game. But I think the next one on my list at the minute is like looking like maybe Dragon Quest 11.
Okay, that's another big game.
It's another big game, and it's a JRPG, which is a risk because, like I said earlier, I'm not a big fan of them. I've played Persona 5 recently, which I just didn't really get into.
Yeah, I've never played any of those.
It's meant, like, the thing is, I think as a JRPG, it's excellent, but it just wasn't for me.
Is that where there's a character in that called Joker?
That's right, yeah, in Smash Bros as well.
Yeah, I'm going to tell this, and that's how I know it. This very little anecdote. So obviously, Ashara, we've met by doing Extreme Improv. The podcasts, and then your group Bandana Improv have come and guested with us just before the lockdown began. But doing an Extreme Improv show, we'd done it at a anime and gaming con, and so like we were there, and then people all dressed up in cosplay, and a guy came up to take part in one of the games, and I was like, "Oh, what are you dressed as?" And he was like Joker, and I was thinking that he was dressed up as like Heath Ledger,
the Joker,
from Batman, and I made a joke, but I was like, "What? You're nothing like the Joker." And I didn't say he was rubbish, but I was like, I'd have never. What version of the Joker is this? And it was like it's playing to the stereotype. So he was at an anime and gaming con.
Yeah.
He was like super. Like, he didn't take my joke well, probably because there was a cosplay thing coming up, and I'd be like, "How is this the Joker?
How is this Joker? You look rubbish."
Yeah. And then right towards the end of the show, I was like thanking everyone, and because we'd had 2 or 3 people up on stage to like participate in games we were doing. So anyone watching this, check out any of the Extreme Improv stuff, and you'll understand what is that we're talking about. But I was like thanking people that got up, and it suddenly just dawned on me because of Smash Brothers and Joker as a special character. I was like, "Oh, you're Joker from Persona," and he was like, "Yeah, that's right." And it was very funny. But no, I
think it's confusing as well because isn't there like is it Mortal Kombat or like one of those other ones where the Joker's in?
So they have had. So they've done they did Mortal Kombat versus DC, and then they done Injustice,
Yes.
which are from the same people that do
Yeah.
Kombat, and it's basically instead of Street Fighter versus Marvel, it was Mortal Kombat and DC's characters. But yeah, so that might make it even more confusing. Cool. Okay, so Ashara, we can begin to wrap this one up because I feel like we've just kind of scratched the surface and we would go.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we can do another one if you're happy to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I'd be keen to do
we can come up with some now. We've got a sense of what each other have played and stuff. We can choose some areas to perhaps deep dive into.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
Cool, perfect. But so just so we could perhaps give something useful out there. What would obviously we've mentioned about Breath of the Wild and things, but from anything from your gaming backlog or games you've played in the past, what would you recommend to people who are in lockdown as some great games to play during these kinds of circumstances?
Okay, so I'm going to avoid all the ones which I've mentioned already and raved about. Like any of those would obviously be a great example of a game.
Oh, and I just don't know if you're freezing on me again, so I'm going to wait to see if you come back here. Okay, you're back. You're back.
Just yeah.
Yeah,
sorry. So what I was saying is, obviously, any of the games I've mentioned so far, pick them up, play them. Amazing. As I would maybe a more unusual, which pick up Mad Max.
Mad Max.
It's Mad Max, yeah, because it's a bit of an out there shot, a bit of an out there choice. It's like a living action RPG with like it's sort of got a similar gameplay style as like Batman and the sort of fighting and things like that, but you can drive around in all these cars and it's just really fun. And like
with Mad Max. Hang on, Mad Max. What am I thinking of? No, I was thinking of Max Payne.
Max Payne.
Sorry, yeah, go on, Mad Max. Oh, I've not played Mad Max the game.
Mad Max is a great game. Like, have you seen Fury Road? The film. Yeah, so like if you like Fury Road, you'll like Mad Max. It's so good. It is one of those games which went under the radar for people. So I'm just looking at my collection from here. Dying Light, again, another RPG ish, but you get like sort of like loot that gets better. It's a zombie game. Really, really fun. And then maybe something lighter. Or what would be something like those? Because those are all quite heavy, aren't they? So I'm just struggling to see from here. Maybe something old, actually.
Yeah, what's a retro recommendation?
Retro. Completely off base with this one. Like Need for Speed was like the original one from like this is like a 15-year or Burnout Paradise equivalently. Both fun racing games, arcade feel. Most Wanted is really good because it's got like the racing and then it's got the cop mechanic where you get chased and you have like driving around and like have battles almost with them. Burnout Paradise is great because you can flip your cars and like do all kinds of fun things, and there's like a really fun open world. What would you say if you had to name three? Which would be your
if
three?
I had to name three. Okay, so
I cheated by naming four there.
No, that's fine. Or I might have a cheaty bonus one as well then. Okay, so if I had to name three, excluding ones we've mentioned, because I would easily say Breath of the Wild is perfect for this. But I would say, even though I kind of mentioned it earlier, I would say play Resident Evil 2 remake, because if you can get past the fact that it's kind of terrifying at times, it's a fantastic game. The story, the characters, the gameplay is just fun. Or if you don't want to play that one, play Resident Evil 4, because that's a game where you can just, the more you play it, the easier it gets, the less scary it gets, because nothing takes you by surprise, and it's just a joy to play. So any Resident Evil, you'll be fine, but I'll count that as one. So that's my cheaty one.
Bar Resident Evil 6.
Bar Resident Evil 6. Maybe I'll give that a go just to see if I can get into it.
Don't.
Okay.
It's terrible.
It is. The second one I'm going to give is I'm going to give something which we haven't touched on at all before in this, other than the fact I said I was playing it at the moment, and that is on the Switch or on the 3DS you can get this, and it's Picross, which is a puzzle where you've got like a grid and you have to make a picture by working out where the filled in squares will be compared to the blank squares based on how many, if you've got like a row of 10 squares, and you'll get a number next to it telling you that.
Oh, it's like Hachi.
It's like what?
It's like is it Hachi? It's like a Japanese like a not like a crossword, but like you can do it by hand.
Yeah, it's probably exactly that.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that this is just like the game version of something you'd get in a newspaper.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it'll say like a number 6, and then 6 out of the 10 squares are going to be coloured in, and then you just have to look along the grid up and down to work out where it's filled in, where it isn't.
Yes.
And for me, 1, it's engaging, but 2, if you're watching a film, if you've got Netflix on during, like, the amount of times I've just been like, well, I don't really want to do anything too productive.
Sure.
I just want something on, but I don't want to just watch TV. And that's a great game to play.
Yeah.
The next one I'm going to kind of cheat on because I haven't played it. But that's obviously the Final Fantasy VII remake just came out, and I'm very, very tempted by it. It's not long till my birthday, so I may hold out and so I have something to look forward to.
Something to look forward to, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of a birthday nowadays. But if you're not playing the new one, then the original one is another great game.
Yeah.
As another retro game to play. Just so that it's going to be something that takes 50, 60, 70 hours. I always preferred Final Fantasy VIII just because it had got a card game in it, which I found far more addictive than the main storyline. But yeah, Final Fantasy 7 or 8 or the 7 remake, I'm sure is great.
Okay, those are some good shouts, I think.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see. I might have to give Final Fantasy VII a go potentially.
Do you know what? I think that there's a demo. I think for it.
Oh, is there? Oh, okay.
If there's a demo, get the demo. Yeah. I haven't got the demo, but as anyone who's followed Extreme Improv may know, I went to the EGX show last October, which now at the Excel Centre, it's now the Nightingale Hospital. As a strange turn of events.
Yeah.
But I waited in a queue for an hour and 45 minutes to play a 10-minute demo of Final Fantasy VII, and it was worth it. So, yeah, I would recommend it.
Good.
Brilliant.
I think that's a strong recommendation.
Yeah, fantastic. It's been great. It's been great having this chat, and like I said, we can do another one again soon.
Absolutely, would love to. Yeah.
Yeah, pick out.
It was really good fun.
Yeah, you know your games in depth, and that's great. And with our connection of improv as well, then this is all good. So in fact, plug, where can people find either you or Bandana Improv?
Yeah. So you can find my group Bandana Improv on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or at Bandana Improv. And we're not performing at the minute, but once all quarantine is over, I'm sure we'll be looking for more venues and more places to perform.
Yeah, absolutely, and we can have you back on more shows, or just have you on more shows, Ashara. Like
absolutely,
you've done 1 or 2 of the live streams. It'd be good to get you on that again.
Absolutely.
So, in terms of gaming, like you said, you don't do speedruns, but do you have like a Twitch or anything that people?
I don't have a Twitch at the minute, but maybe in the future.
Yeah. Okay. So
if I get one, I'll pop that in.
Yeah, so I've only recently got the Twitch. The Twitch is probably
the Twitch. Yes,
I've got the Twitch. But anyway, so I've been using it to live stream some games, but also the Extreme Improv shows. So that's twitch.com/Extreme Improv. If anyone wants to see any of the Extreme Improv shows, or just me playing some games across these same platforms as well, then it's facebook.com/Extreme Improv, mixer.com/Extreme Improv, which I'd never heard of before, and youtube.com/Extreme Improv. This is the Games Monster podcast, which is available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and so on and so forth. And there are many, many other podcasts that come from Extreme Improv as well. Some podcasts are improv related, others are movie, this one's games, so check them out, they're all good. So until next time, thank you so much everyone, stay safe, and bye for now.